The final stop on our tour of California takes us to the state's most famous racetrack, Laguna Seca. A sports car haven in the past, this place has become the home of open wheelers as well in the last couple decades. But tonight, it'll be overrun by Porsches as we get ready to watch round 7 of the Porsche Owners Club Series, and you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Roush Racing driver Joey Atterbury. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Up and down the scenic hills, Laguna Seca makes good use of the terrain. Let's take a closer look at it with our track guide. Welcome to Laguna Seca. Located just east of Monterey, California, it's hard to deny that this is one of the more scenic American road courses. It travels up and down a hillside which not only offers spectacular views, but one of racing's most iconic corners. Clocking in at 2.25 miles in length, 11 turns split up the current configuration. I say current because up until 1988, the track's layout was shockingly simple with a mere 9 dangerously fast corners. But despite becoming a much more technical track, this difficult nature was retained in its modern form. Turn 6 in particular places an emphasis on precision and daring with its tricky dip at the apex and narrow racing line. But the most well-known spot on the track is of course the corkscrew. Blind and kinked on entry, it then whips the driver through a chicane which drops you nearly 60 feet. It's earned a reputation worldwide for forcing even the most daring competitors to second-guess themselves. But there's honestly a refreshingly wide variety in types of corners, making it a perfect track for driver coaching and training. Elevation changes, differing cambers, and every sort of apex imaginable leaves seasoned veterans and newcomers alike spending hours trying to perfect a lap. With the track becoming popular for hosting IMSA, IndyCar, and MotoGP in its recent history, it also brings out lots of vintage racers due to the Monterey Historics each year. Likely to remain a fixture on the American racing scene, this legendary circuit is almost always high on drivers' best of lists. Its history and its uniqueness are sure to delight all for years to come. Well, this is going to be a tricky one. This is a difficult track for drivers, but always a fun one.
It's a very technical track out in Monterey, California. 11 turns, just over 2 miles in length. A couple big-time passing opportunities. The main one, Andretti hairpin, also known as Turn 2. It's a big-time dive down into that corner, so you have to be confident on the brakes, and it's also incredibly long, so you have to keep the front end really pinned down to the apex there. Really, turns 3, 4, 5, I consider them very, very similar to each other, differing in speeds, but they are all technical, and you have to watch out on the exit. Also, the corkscrew, one of the most famous turns in all of motorsports. It plunges way downhill. You pretty much look at the trees as your turn-in point and hope that you're pointed the right way. And from the corkscrew, it is all the way downhill through turn 9, 10, and the final turn 11. Another big-time passing opportunity for the sprint to the start-finish line.
We'll see if anybody can get those passes done today, as it tends to be a little bit tough here to try and make it happen and make it stick. But before we get to that, let's remind you that our sponsor is, of course, Porsche. There is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Game Changer Wealth, helping you become a game changer with wealth. Contact them today at GameChangerBR.com or at 225-664-2565. Now, as for the championship, things get a little bit interesting because, yes, Tom Layton is leading, but he didn't take the win last round. It was Cigar Dewan who finally got his first victory and has now cut it down to only 8 points. And we don't have Tom here today to try and compete to hold on to that lead. However, the drop weeks are going to start saving him on top of that, so that's going to be interesting. As for Andrew Chinichi, he's also not here today, unfortunately, so he won't be in it. This is a good chance for Cigar. Chris Walsh, though, has been a big competitor since he came in and is very quickly making up points to the leaders. So let's see what he's got underneath him here today at Laguna Seca. The rest of them obviously quite close from there on down. What about today's race details here, Joey? What are we looking at?
While we're here in California, round 7 of 12 in the season. As always, we are using those Porsche 911 GT3R cars. These are the biggest, baddest, brand new model of the GT3 cars. A 30-minute race. The competitors are also in a 30-minute qualifying session right now on the track, and a fixed setup that everybody has to deal with. That means everybody is on the same equipment. You have to understand how it works around this Laguna Seca track and maximize, or I should say, shave those lap times.
Yeah, if you missed it last week, it was our endurance round. So the drivers had a lot more to play for out there at Willow Springs, with it being double points, but it's back to normal here today. Still, it'll be important in terms of the points on what the drivers can accrue today, especially if your rivals are not here. Cigar Dewan is trying to make good use of it and see if he can go back-to-back for his first wins, because the 501 is on provisional pole, but it's Chris Walsh chasing him. And as we've seen, Chris can be mighty on a good day.
I don't think it's just those two names, though, Joe. I look at the entire, let's see here, the top 6 is all in that 1 minute 21 second bracket for their qualifying lap time. So you look throughout the field, and it's pretty close.
It's been a bit of an off year for Michael Johnson. He's had to miss a number of races, but he is back. Now, this is also an opportunity for him because he's kind of one of those guys that is sort of there and thereabouts, and if somebody else falters, he's there to pick up the pieces. But right now, qualifying doesn't look so hot for him, it seems, Joey.
You're right. That's a bit unusual to see out of this purple number 9 car. Usually, Michael Johnson is, you're right, one of the fastest cars on the racetrack. So it's not a matter of laps turned. I'm seeing he's got 10 laps turned, so he's turned plenty. I wonder if he just maybe has the car still full on fuel compared to everybody else. But, oh, there's a spin going down through the corkscrew. Got to be careful about that.
At least he didn't hit anything, because we've seen drivers often will try and make sure and use up their fuel as much as they can and then go get fresh tires. And he's just done that. So he's on fresh rubber. And if he has to take a full tank of fuel, that's really going to hurt to try and have to narrow that down towards the end of qualifying so he can get better laps. But he's able to get it going. Hopefully he can get the tires cleaned off and get it back on course for a good lap. Dylan Scott here, finishing up his run. I'm not sure that he's going to be able to improve. And no, he does not. That looks like that may have been an outlap for him as well. So the 08 carries on. BJ Fulton, who's had at least one podium this weekend, or this season rather, and currently sits in 7th, is down in 9th right now with a ways to go. Although he's only about a second off of the pole time, so that's not too dramatically bad.
And Laguna Seca, it's a very low grip racetrack, so track position is important. But Joe, I have a feeling there's going to be plenty of passing opportunities, plenty of cars running out wide, like we're even seeing BJ Fulton do here multiple times. So I feel like as long as you are there in the scrum, you've got a shot.
Ooh, Chris Walsh has just taken that pole away from Dewan by 0.02 of a second. So Cigar now has to try and respond here in these final 5 minutes to see if he can go quicker than 21:107. And there is Chris heading into turn 5 now. Now, if you've been watching racing here recently, it's going to be slightly different. You can see they don't have some of the paved runoff there on some places, and they don't have the repave here. So this is still the old surface that you see on it, bumps and all.
Gosh, we got to talk to those iRacing folk. I mean, the pavement was just laid down, what, a couple months ago? Geez, why don't they have a scan yet?
Yeah, some people do complain that way, but I think we can understand that they try and put a lot of care and effort into this. Is across the line at, I believe, was BJ Fulton again that we were watching there. Yeah, down into turn 1 there in the 82. Another lap that did not count for him, unfortunately, so he'll have to cycle back around once again. Walsh is going to cross one more time. Doesn't go quicker that time. Cigar Dewan is heading up the hills, down the hill. We're watching the car of Michael Bolton. Now, Michael's also had some really good results lately. He currently sits in 7th, and he's about 0.8 off the pole.
Got the Rexy tribute paint going on right there as he rounds out of turn number 11. We'll see what lap time he's able to put down on this one. Joe, I actually really like these qualifying sessions. Looks like he put down a 121.966. He does improve, but doesn't go up any positions. But I was going to say, it's kind of like a chess game on when you take those tires, how much fuel you've burned off, and when you set your flyer.
Yeah, that's a good point. Not quite the degree that I think we have it, say, at F1, but definitely a case of, well, do you think you can get that fast lap on the first time around? Do you need a couple laps to warm up the tires? How is it all going to play out? Can you get the clear traffic? And this time by Chad Duncan did not go quicker. As we watch Michael Johnson. Ooh, last lap was a big improvement for him. He's up into 7th with a 21.9. That looks a lot more representative.
And now the top 8 cars are in that 1 minute 21 second bracket. So I have a feeling not just Michael is speeding up, but Joe, maybe even the track is starting to get some speed as well.
Yep, just like in real life, it rubbers in here in the sim, so the drivers are banking on that as well, helping them. It's a little bit warm on the track surface itself at about 95 degrees Fahrenheit, but nothing too crazy out there, I'd say. 69 Fahrenheit air temperature, which sounds quite lovely out in California, I'm sure. But in the meantime, coming down into that final corner, Dewan showing very close to his best time. Let's see if this will actually be an improvement or not.
Comes across a 121.2, just shy of his fast lap. I've got my eye on the number 2 car. Gabe Zamora, he just went through the corkscrew. He's coming down the hill, and Joe, he's tracking like right on top of his fast lap, but he's also right there. If he just picks up a little bit, he might be able to move up a spot.
Jacob Abrams just moved up ahead of Gabe into 3rd, so now Gabe really has to respond. If he wants that 3rd place back, he's coming to the timing line. You're right, it's going to be tight on whether or not he is quicker. He crosses 21.652 is not going to cut it. He'll stay in 4th, but he has enough time for 2 more laps here if he wants to take it. Also, Walsh just came in and took fresh tires. He's on his out lap right now. He'll only have time for 1 flying lap.
And something that's important to remember, you're right, Joe, because it is the open qualifying session. When that timer runs out, as long as you've started your qualifying lap, you will be able to complete it.
AJ Roper's last lap did not count, but his one prior was his best. Don't think it has shot him upwards, but 21.932 is good enough for 7th here as across the line. Michael Bolton, rather. Oh, Bolton with a 21.7. He's going to jump up to 5th now over Rondeau.
Fantastic lap from the 127, and crucially, he gets by the start-finish before that checker comes out, so he has enough to go and do another one. Check back a little bit further in the pack. I just have a feeling this timing and scoring board, it's going to keep shuffling.
Dylan Scott does not improve that time by. Neither does Michael Johnson, so they each start their final flying lap. So does Mark Rondeau, Chad Duncan, and BJ Fulton. They are all zipping across the line here in a hurry to try and get that last go in. Dustin Heindel made it past with about 15 seconds to go, so looks like AJ Roper is going to be the first to take the checkered flag, as that looked like Michael Bolton maybe off of the course, unfortunately, out of turn 6. So his lap is done. Oh, and so is Cigar Dewan's. He's not going to be our pole sitter as he cuts through the corkscrew. And AJ Roper coming down and across is probably not going to take it, and he does not. 22.1. He'll stay 8th at best.
And I'm looking through the field. Maybe Gabe. Here's another car, the number 8 car. This is Will Castillo rounding out of turn number 11. He is currently down there in 16th place. Let's see what he puts down here this time. A 127.7 does improve his lap time.
Chad Dick is going to be next across here, and a 22 flat is going to be quicker up to 10th place. Castillo did not gain a position, unfortunately, even though he did go faster. Michael Johnson not tracking on a hot lap here, and his day is over, as BJ Fulton is going to be up next. He'll cross the line, not going to be any faster. Chad Duncan does go quicker, the 21.7, and jumps back up to 6th.
And then Gabe Zamora does not improve. Another 21.6, just ultimate consistency, but unfortunately doesn't improve the lap time.
Well, that's everybody that is able to set a time here, which means our grid is set here for round 7. And Chris Walsh has taken the top spot. Will he get another win? He jumped in with 2 back-to-back wins and then couldn't quite repeat it last time out with a 2nd place in the end. Cigar Dewan is going to be starting next to him to see if he can deny him that victory, as Jacob Abrams will start from 3rd. Gabe Zamora will be P4. Great to see him with a good speed here today, as Michael Bolton will start from 5th and Jad Duncan in 6th. Mark Rondeau, good enough for 7th, will be followed by AJ Roper in 8th. Michael Johnson got pushed down a little bit there at the end, had to settle for 9th position, and Chad Dick rounds out your top 10.
In 11th place, we have BJ Fulton. Dylan Scott is going to be lined up next to him on row number 6. Dustin Heindel in 13th place. John Momeyer starting 14th, and 2 more. Larry Haas is going to be 15th, and Will Castillo in 16th will share row number 8 with him.
Haven't seen Gabe Zamora since round 4, but he's back once again. And best finish of, I believe, around 7th or 8th position. I have to double check on that one. We'll see where he winds up in the end, as they are already lining up on the grid and are getting ready to go. Going to be a short pace lap, as they'll start just before turn 10, and then they'll bring them through 11. The leader will have control, but Chris will have to wait for the green flag from Barney. He cannot go whenever he pleases in this series. And then they're on their way for 30 minutes of racing. Like we said before, Joey, track position often very important at this track.
It is. It's a shorter track. It's a low grip track, so you're really going to have to drive these cars, especially after lap 1 or 2 when those sticker tires wear off. But Joe, you already said the name that interests me. That number 2 car, Gabe Zamora, was very, very consistent in qualifying. I'm curious to see what the race pace is going to be out of that car.
And consistency sometimes in these races have paid huge dividends, with some drivers nabbing podiums or even wins just by keeping it together. So maybe that will pay off for him in the end. We'll see. Just have to wait until the racing gets going to get a good feel of how this race is going to play out. Just waiting on Jad Duncan and Castillo to put themselves out there. Looks like actually we do have Duncan now out on the grid, so Will be the last car. And it looks like he should be, yes, he is in the session still, so didn't have any connection problems. He's just giving it some time before he puts himself, it looks like, out there with the rest of the field. They get about 2 minutes, and then they have to go. And, yeah, he waited right up to 2 minutes to do it, and now he is ready. So should see that pace car pop off, and let's go racing here with some beautiful Porsches at one of the homes of sports car racing here in North America.
Like you said, just a very, very shortened pace lap. Pace cars already off the track. You actually have to be kind of careful here going around the final turn. 2 by 2, it gets narrow.
All right, waiting patiently, all of them trying to stack back up next to one another as quickly as they can. And there is the green flag. Walsh doesn't get the best of starts in comparison to Dewan. He is right to his outside. If he breaks deep enough, he could make this a challenge. It'll be tough around the outside. We'll see what he can do as they come down to the first apex and a spin up towards the front of the field. Cars scatter to try and avoid, but unfortunately a few are not able to make it, including Michael Johnson getting caught in there. Looks like Jacob Abrams as well.
Oh, yeah, just a shame for Michael Johnson. It was Jacob Abrams, and we got more problems. I believe this is Chad Dick turned around as well in turn number 4. You got to be careful here on this opening lap. It is slippery.
Interesting stuff here to start it off. So Walsh still your leader over Dewan. Bolton, though, is now in 3rd. He was able to make it through the chaos and is trying to hold on ahead of Gabe Zamora, with Mark Rondeau close behind.
As they head up the hill to the tallest point on this racetrack, and as soon as you reach it, you better be hard on the brakes and buckle up, because down the corkscrew we go.
Down out of the second apex there from Rainy Curve, trying to keep your speed up all the way to turn 10. Looking good for Michael Bolton, staying out of range of Gabe Zamora, though he's looking very good on the brakes himself. That black number 2 really gained a ton on that yellow number 127.
And give credit where credit is due, because Michael Bolton was able to clear himself out of that mess there on the first lap, move himself up 2 positions, and then also crucially that black number 2, he went way out wide to avoid those spins. So keeping the car clean, it's important to stay in the race.
Chris Walsh now at about a second ahead of DeJuan up at the front of the field. They run away from this group, fighting for the 3rd position as they head down into turn 5. Zamora still within striking range. Rondeau also still keeping a watchful eye, but he's certainly not as close to that number 2 as the 2 is to the 127. So he's going to have to try and cut that back down here if he wants to get involved in the hunt. So they'll head up the hill once again to the corkscrew.
This is a good 3-car battle. Bolton, Zamora, and Rondeau as we charge down the corkscrew one more time. And trust me, that corner in real life is just as intimidating as it is in the sim. Honestly, Joe, if not more, because you have absolutely no visual reference up there.
I can't imagine, especially with how big of a drop it is, what it must feel like going over that cliff. But let's see what happens with Zamora with a decent run off the final hairpin down towards Andretti. He's going to have a bit of the slipstream, but I don't think it's a long enough straightaway. And no, he's just a little too far back. So that should give us a chance to take a look at the first lap through this corner and see what exactly happened that cost us a couple drivers out of this race already.
They round out of turn number 3, get this GSRC replay. This is that first lap. This is the car that spun around, and unfortunately he does not hold the brakes. And you see Michael Johnson, he was trying to sneak through on the inside, and he just was not expecting that car to come back across.
I think that may have been Jacob Abrams. Just trying to make out the number. Yeah, so the 728 getting turned around. And he is now at the back of the field, having had to take his spare car. And then the second incident, going completely around, not hitting anybody, and eventually getting back on the course there. Is that BJ Fulton?
I believe that one was Chad Dick that was turned around in turn number 3 on the first lap.
You're right, that is. So he's down in 11th. He's gained a few spots back since then, so he's made quick work trying to get back into this. Behind him, that is John Momeyer, who is giving chase.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing, but actually check out Zamora right now. He's right on the bumper of Michael Bolton. He's trying to get past this 3rd place position. He's going to try to go around the outside, deep on the brakes. Let's see if he can hold the nose. No, he's going to have to tuck back in line.
Couldn't quite do it. Even though it's fixed setups in these cars, the one thing you can change is the brake balance. And with how deep Gabe is going into the corners, Joey, I wonder if he's fiddled with that.
I wouldn't doubt it, but the thing about the Andretti hairpin, turn number 2 here at Laguna Seca, it's just so long. You look at the track map, it really is 2 separate 90-degree corners. So a lot of times those outside moves, unless you're completely up alongside of them, and I mean the front axle equal with the front axle, it's tough to hold that outside line.
As we've seen, so Gabe's going to have to get a little bit tricky here, at least from what we've been seeing so far. That'll get a good run out of the final hairpin if he wants to try and make this pass stick. Rondeau was able to catch up a little bit because of that side-by-side battle. You can see he's cut it down to about half a second now.
Yeah, if they're not careful, you're right. That number 11 car is right there to pick up any pieces if they fall apart. Come out of turn number 11. Actually, Rondeau got a really good entry, really good corner through turn number 11. Keep an eye on that gray car.
He's a lot closer to Zamora now. They're heading over the crest down towards turn 2. And nope, doesn't look like he's going to be able to do anything at this moment. DeJuan, by the way, at one point was 0.7 of a second behind Walsh, but that has grown back up to 2 seconds. So he must have had some sort of mistake in the last lap that has cost him. And yeah, I can see his last lap was a 23.1, whereas his previous 2 laps were in the 21. So he must have had a little bit of an off or a slip up.
And I've said it before earlier, Laguna Seca is a low grip racetrack. Now, in order to maximize your lap time, that means you have to use every inch of pavement. And you see him running all the way out to track limits, both on entry, apex, and exit. If you overstep that little limit just a little bit, it's easy to lose time.
So there's Dewan on your screen in the black machine, trying to chase back down Chris Walsh. Let's see what this lap looks like. Walsh still running 21s very consistently up at the very front. If Cigar can at least cut it into it a little bit, he should still be in the hopes for the victory here today, because he's got plenty of race left to go here at 23 minutes left on the clock. This time across the line, 22-1. Still a little slow compared to his previous laps, but not badly so.
No, not badly. This is the battle between Will Castillo and John Momeyer as they come down through the corkscrew. I've been watching this one. Oh, yeah, Castillo off the track a little bit there.
Just coming out of rainy curve, a little too wide there. And Momeyer's going to sneak through. That gets him back up into 11th place. Both of them have gained a lot of spots. Momeyer up 3, Castillo up 4.
Oh, Castillo once again wagging the tail coming out of the final turn there. And where that pass was made, turn 9, turn 10, rainy curve down there, I can't tell you guys how far downhill it still is. We always talk about the corkscrew plunging downhill. Well, trust me, it is still going downhill at that point.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, that will affect the grip of the car as gravity does its thing. But Castillo is back on track now and doing his best, considering he's been handed a good opportunity to try and gain some points with those opening wrecks. But behind him, you can see that is, oh, actually, that's not for position behind him. That is Larry Haas, who's a lap down. So actually doesn't have to worry about that 13 car. In the meantime, back up to the top, 22-4. And a 22-2 last time for Chris Walsh. So even though Dewan was a little slow on his previous laps, it looks like Chris was as well. And this time also a 22-2. So Cigar is matching Chris. That's the good news. The bad news is that's not going to help him catch him.
Always have to be careful about the tire fall off, especially in iRacing. If you overheat the tires, it can be really, really difficult to get that temperature and those grip levels back to you. So it's only still in the first 10 minutes of the race. I wouldn't expect any serious fall off to be happening to our leader right now. Maybe just Dewan is in the groove.
Could be. And I guess time will tell. They head up the hill once again. Walsh, remember I was saying, came in and won round 4 and 5. Then unfortunately couldn't quite do the same for a three-peat at Willow Springs, but he still actually ironically got 20 points for that one, which is what you normally get for a win, but it's because of the double points that he came away with that. So finished third there, as it was Tom Layton who finished second, and Cigar Dewan taking the win on that one. I'm sure that Cigar is not going to be too unhappy with a 15-point gain, though, tonight, since Tom Layton, I believe, will still be in a pretty good position. I think his drop points will go to, he'll drop a 2, or well, he'll drop a 0 and a 2, I should say, since he's missing tonight. But this is his first one that he will miss, and he can't afford to miss 2 anymore, because they can only drop 2 races over the course of the 12-race season. Back to this battle with Bolton and Zamora. Gabe just keeping the pressure onto that bright yellow machine.
And Rondo just falling off a little bit off of this battle there in that gray car. The yellow Rexy-themed car, Michael Bolton doing a tremendous job limiting the mistakes, using up all of that racetrack, but not too much.
I think he knows his main goal here is keep it on the track, get those good exits, and hopefully that'll keep him behind far enough that he can't attack in the braking zones. Like here, into the corkscrew, where sometimes you can see passes, though they are tricky, and it's not going to happen this time. Gabe's just been hovering about 3 to 4 tenths behind, and has been at least keeping himself in the mirrors, keeping that psychological edge on.
I think one of the reasons why we see limited passing here at Laguna Seca is that it's a tremendous circuit to drive and to race on. However, these cars, they've gotten so fast around this place. You really look at it, the straightaways, they need to be about a quarter of a mile longer in order to really get that run to accelerate that passing opportunity. Otherwise, you get a lot of this where you just have to apply that pressure like you were mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, a minute 20 in sports cars, that's a pretty short lap, especially in GT cars. So, yeah, you're right that the technology has just improved so much over the years. And these cars now wicked fast around this circuit as they head towards turn 5. Uphill left-hander, much more tidy on the way in for Zamora, but still not going to do him any good. I do see a little bit of a battle starting to brew between Heindel and Chad Dick for 9th position. So that's farther down in the field. This is looking close. There was a little bit of a poke and a prod from that black number 2.
It was close enough that Michael Bolton felt that he needed to go defensive in the middle of the track, going down the corkscrew, and now all the way downhill into turn number 10, and Gabe gets really close to the back end of this yellow Porsche, but it's all going to be coming out of turn number 11. There's contact going in.
Looking a little bit IndyCar-esque there for a moment, but thankfully they both kept it pointed forward. Zamora backs off a little bit, and thankfully Bolton is not spun by the contact, but that definitely woke both of them up.
Well, and I think that maybe Michael Bolton is just kind of struggling a little bit that lap, because you look at that lap compared to how fast they've been going, and it fell off a little, and that's brought Mark Rondeau right back to it.
That's an excellent point, and we're watching from on board with him now, looking forward up to this fight. I'm sure he'd love for them to start tussling a little bit more and maybe give him some more opportunities as they kick up some dirt, going as far close to the edge as they can go.
You seriously have to go until you hear the gravel. You don't want to overstep that limit, but if you leave any inch of concrete out there, you are leaving that open radius time on the table.
Looks like he's starting to recover a little bit now. I think he's in a much better position and is starting to pull back away somewhat. Ooh, Heindel did lose that position to Chad Dick just now as he went off at turn 5. So the 930 moves up a position, and he brought along Jacob Abrams, who was a lap down, trying to get that lap back, making life a little bit difficult for Chad here.
Yeah, you're right. Jacob Abrams just one lap down, or actually I see maybe 2 laps down, working his way through the middle of this battle. But, you know, he's got a right to go out there and race as well, as long as he's respectful about it. That's all that matters.
Absolutely. Although I have a feeling that Chad doesn't really want that pass to happen at the corkscrew. Still, he backed off eventually, and they're back to single file. Chad's still running away from Dustin Heindel as well, despite the car trying to unlap himself. So I think he's in a good position. Remember, Abrams involved in that opening wreck had to come down pit lane, and there's no scheduled pit stops in this shortened format, hence why he's gone a lap down.
Just good, close racing, and you're right, even though it's a lap down, it looks like just some nice battle going on through now turn 4. One of the faster sweepers on the racetrack. It's actually more about carrying your speed through the apex on that one, because if you get a good run, or if somebody makes a mistake, going into turn 5 can be a potential passing area.
I always felt like that was a bit of an underrated corner. It's not as scary as turn 6, but like you said, still very, very fast. And I know there's been plenty of times where I've screwed it up and wound up in the wall.
Well, and to talk about turn 4 specifically, just with the cars getting faster and faster throughout the years, it's pretty much just a lift in these GT cars now, as we see Chad Dick just running out a little bit wide there. Jacob Abrams starting to close the gap.
I wonder if he just needs to let... Yep, there he goes. I was going to say, it's probably in his best interest to just let him go. If he's faster, yeah, he's a lapped car. Whoa, he's going to go back up the inside. Maybe he's just having fun here, and he's going to pass him right back.
You gotta love to see it. The classic over-under, and at Laguna Seca, the way those final corners are cambered, you can do it.
So now Jacob going to come right back at him. Going to go around the outside, but the double apexer is going to deny him the opportunity, and he has to slot back in line. Yeah, I'm starting to get the feeling that Chad is not as concerned about position and is just having a good time there racing one of his cohorts. These drivers not only race here in the sim, but in real life in their actual Porsches quite frequently, and sometimes at this track.
And honestly, if you're Jacob Abrams, you're probably enjoying this too. Remember, you kind of made a little bit of a blunder at the beginning, and now you actually have a race rather than just doing laps by yourself.
Exactly. And whew, really going out to the edge at turn 6. Both of them spraying the dirt and dust as they kick it up from the edge of the track down through the corkscrew once again. And Abrams is going to be able to get a little bit closer. I'm keeping half an eye on two other battles. AJ Roper and Jad Duncan are getting close to one another, and Rondeau's actually getting a lot closer to Zamora than Gabe is to Bolton. Up the way, around the outside maybe, or is this a cut back? Nope, car parked at the apex, and Abrams is not going to be able to get by him.
Yeah, just went in too deep there in 11. Unfortunately, it's probably going to take about a lap or so for him to catch back up to Chad Dick over there. And you're right. Yeah, let's go check in with Jad Duncan if we can, because this was a battle that I wasn't watching too much earlier, but it has slowly started to develop. This yellow car, this yellow 83, has started to hunt down AJ Roper as he's got to hang on to it out of 5.
Whew, just about threw it away there. Looked a little bit more timid going through turn 6. I think maybe that scared him a little bit, maybe slowed him down for a corner or two. Up into the corkscrew. Now it looks like he's more on it. In fact, so on it, he just about cuts the course.
Yeah, and to talk about the corkscrew, there's a tree up there. It is modeled in iRacing. As long as you pick the right treetop, Joe, you aim for it, and it will put you on the apex. Just, you got to make sure it's the right tree.
Yeah, exactly. And I've heard a couple drivers have mentioned aiming for that tree. I know Michael Johnson says he will often do so. Unfortunately, Will Castillo has got a black flag for too many incidents, so he's going to have to come in and serve that. And actually, for a second he blinked. I thought he was going to park the car completely. It looks like that's connection issues. Back to Zamora. Wow, what has happened with that number 2? You were talking about the tires earlier. Did he abuse them too much here?
That's a good point. We are into that phase, 11 minutes remaining, so they've got plenty of laps on them so far. If you abused them early, they're not going to be very nice to you right now, but I think it's just consistency. I mentioned Zamora in qualifying, incredibly consistent. He is still turning consistent lap times, but they've fallen off maybe just about 0.2, which has allowed that number 11 to close it in.
Rondeau's got to be loving that. Like I said, he's had some good results this season and has been picking up some top 5s in there. Hasn't gotten any podiums yet, but he's working on it. And he's in the top 5 right now, 2 positions away from that podium. In fact, you can see the podium up there where Michael Bolton sits. So definitely not out of the question. And we're into the final third of the race.
See what happens up here. And just to look at the whole picture here, I'm really impressed with the lead battle still. Cigar Dewan has hung on to it, still within about 1.5 seconds of Chris Walsh. So if any slip up happens right there, still got a battle. And then the 127, Michael Bolton, remember, he was the yellow car getting pressure from Zamora and Mark Rondeau. I'm looking at his lap times. He's really the one that's taken off from that battle.
In fact, his last lap was only 1/10 off of Dewan. So yeah, you're right. Bolton maybe was just saving his stuff as well a little bit and is suddenly on top of things, trying to see if he can chase down the top 2, who there you see, that's our leader Walsh heading down through the corkscrew into Rainy Curve. And Dewan hot on his heels in the black and multicolored car, just giving watch, making sure that he doesn't completely get away with it. With less than 10 minutes to go, he is going to have to start getting a little closer than this.
See what the lap times produce as they come across the stripe this time. Chris Walsh with a 122.5 and Cigar Dewan with a 122.4. And with only 1.5 seconds separating them, maybe just a little bit each lap will draw you close enough to start applying the pressure.
That's what he needs right now, 1.6, 1.7. So a couple more tenths a lap could definitely be within range. as they head through turn 4 that we were talking about earlier. Again, really pushing the limits, but that tells you that the skill that we've got between Walsh and Dewan here, they're leaving nothing on the table.
You mentioned earlier that a lot of these competitors are racing their own Porsches around Laguna Seca, and I know that Chris Walsh is actually a competitor himself. He's got a lot of competition time, not just track time, but I believe he's been doing a lot over in that World Challenge Series.
Absolutely, yeah. He's a real-world professional, and we know that Dewan also takes his car out to track days as well. So he's got the experience underneath him to try and push hard. Walsh, though, impressively has got over 4K iRating. In fact, it's close to 5,000 iRating that he's got, which I believe is the highest of anybody out here right now. Only one that's even remotely close to that is Chad Dick at about 31,000. Yes,
I meant
3,100 rather.
That would be impressive. You know, I didn't catch that, first of all, until you said something. But yeah, 31,000 would be pretty far up there.
That'd be something worth mentioning, I think, for the rest of iRacing. But Chad Dick's getting close to Dylan Scott now, actually. So we might have a battle farther down the order there. And then I think, is that a lap? Yeah, that's still the lapped car. Jacob Abrams chasing him behind Tim right now. So maybe this is where Chad Dick decides that he's had enough of battling with Jacob, because now he actually has a chance to focus forward and get a position.
And that car in front of him, the 08 of Dylan Scott, that's the black, orange, and blue car that we're focused on. I actually think I see maybe a little bit of front end damage on it, and his pace definitely slower than Chad Dick. So watch the number 930 to get aggressive here this lap.
I think that's more than just a little. I went and looked closer. Yeah, the cameras don't really do it justice. It's missing a good chunk of the front clip. There you go. That's, I know it looks, yeah,
okay, it's missing the whole bumper. You're right. It blended in very nicely earlier, didn't it?
Trick of the eye. I was trying to figure out what exactly we were looking at there, and yeah, very strange looking with the sort of, I guess those are vanes that are supposed to normally put air away from the tires or something, but now with them exposed, they just look really funky. And he might be struggling on pace. Let me look at his lap times. Yeah, he's running mid-24s, and Dick is running mid-23s.
And here we go. Chad Dick and Jacob Abrams is now really starting to apply the pressure as well. What's Chad Dick going to do inside to turn number 11? Whoa. Goes a little deep, under from Dylan Scott.
Maybe too eager to try and get that position, and now Abrams wants to get back in the thick of it. He's on the inside of him. As they head towards the Andretti hairpin. Is he going to let Abrams go? He almost has to. Tries to cut back underneath him, but Abrams is going to be passed. Now Abrams slow off the corner, though. They're going to be on the wrong side. Abrams still down the inside through turn 3, and he's back in front of him.
And now I'm sure Chad Dick might have something to say on the radio, because it separated himself and Dylan Scott, which is a position. So Jacob Abrams inserting himself into the battle, having lots of fun, but I'm curious what Chad has to say.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, Dewan's within half a second of Walsh. What happened there? Last lap at 23.4 for Chris. Cigar Dewan 22.3. Suddenly the battle is on, and they've got lap traffic in front of them. I wonder if it was a little bit of other lap traffic maybe they ran into that slowed them down.
That's BJ Fulton just up the road, and it might have been. I see John Momeyer just behind him, and John's back in 12th place. One of the most respectful drivers on the racetrack. But here at Laguna Seca, if you're in the wrong place at the wrong time, it doesn't matter how respectful you are. There's just no place to go.
Well, and what does this mean for Cigar as well? Does he need to just go gung-ho and be aggressive on trying to pass, or does he try and continue to wait patiently?
I say go for it. You've been hunting him down all race. If you got an opportunity, open the door.
See if he can get close enough to do that. He's trying to break deep enough to at least get within touching distance there down through the corkscrew. He gets it down to 0.3 of a second, continuing to chop away. This is where he needs to be close here through the final turn and then back through Andretti under braking once again, getting really strong down in there. It looks like a decent exit. It's within about 0.3.
Yeah, but Chris Walsh was able to put the power down quite nicely, and he's actually doing a little bit of a serpentine, trying to break whatever draft he's got to Cigar behind him, and they still have that car right in front. And oh no, Gabe Zamora, he finally spins. I was noticing Mark Rondeau was incredibly close to him.
Yeah, trying to see if that's related. Ooh, I think it may have been, unfortunately, Rondeau may have made some contact. That might merit a penalty post-race. They do hand those out sometimes, and it's often in the form of a time penalty. So if that happens, he would probably lose that position back and maybe a few more.
And you know, I went back and looked at it. I understand what you're saying, Joe, but I also think he presented the car nicely. If I was Mark Rondeau, I would definitely argue that this is a racing incident, but you could probably see it from both points of view.
Yeah, there's a look at it. So there's the contact. Yeah, I didn't get a super close look, so I didn't really take into consideration that if he was... Yeah, you're right. I'd say he had good reason to be there.
And I think an aerial or an onboard, I know we're running out of time on the race, but it should show that his car was clearly presented there. But at the same time, if you're Gabe, you don't want to get turned on the final corner there. So I think an argument could be made on both sides.
We'll see what the stewards think. That's ultimately up to them. By the way, Walsh and Dewan did pass BJ Fulton, so that lapped car is out of the way. 2 minutes left, so probably 2 more laps. I don't see anybody else in front of them that they're likely to catch. Now it's mano a mano.
And still got a deal. Oh, they did get around that lapped car like you were saying, and 2 minutes, that should equate to, what, one more time by the stripe here.
All right, so now it's really on Dewan to try and make it work. He did fall back to about 0.7 of a second briefly, but he's cut it back down to about 0.5. It's been yo-yoing back and forth here.
And you see how much of the track he's using. He is in full attack mode through that fast kink, almost lost control on the exit, but hung on to it.
So you're right, here comes the white flag this time by. This is one of our closest battles on track here. It's going to be for all the marbles. Who can come away with the win? Dewan fighting for a championship. Walsh trying to play catch up in the championship, needing every victory he can get.
I mean, if he continues to just click off the laps, he just needs to stay consistent right here. He doesn't need a flyer. He's far enough in front. Just turn a lap.
For reference, Chris missed the first 3 rounds. Remember, 2 drop rounds that they are allowed. So he still will have a 0 score in one of his counted races. And it also means he can't afford any poor results over the course of the season, or else it's going to hurt extra bad compared to the others. Now he's turned the afterburners on, and Dewan has dropped back.
Yeah, and I want to clip to this real fast as AJ Roper trying to get by Gabe Zamora. Looks like he's not going to be quite close enough. They were just a little bit closer coming down to turn 2.
They still got Rondeau not that far up the road, who looks like he might be struggling a bit himself as he's dipping the wheels off in the dirt here and there. So he's got to be careful that he doesn't go over the limit deep into the corner there for AJ Roper, but thankfully doesn't run into the back of Zamora. Meanwhile, Walsh ahead of Dewan. Down to the last 2 corners. This is way too far back for the 501. All Chris has to do is bring it home, hits the apex, hits the gas, and as he accelerates away to the finish line, he is going to get win number 3 of the season out of 4 tries for him.
Tremendous drive from the 104 of Chris Walsh. Credit goes to Cigar Dewan, as well as we catch back up with AJ Roper, still giving chase to Gabe Zamora. Just not quite close enough to make a move into turn number 11. He's going to have to settle there for that 6th place.
Rondeau up 3 spots from where he started. Very good run for him today. And then farther back, Dylan Scott is giving chase on Chad Dick. And unfortunately, Dylan Scott just got turned by Abrams.
No, that's going to possibly, is that going to cost him a position here? I think it might, but a little sloppy coming down through the final turn there.
Looks like no, he's back on track. Chad Dick was the one he was chasing, so don't think he lost a spot, but still frustrating, no doubt, at that stage. As now that Jacob Abrams comes home, I wonder if he will get talked to after this race about his involvement as a lapped car, but that's all speculation. They will know better as to whether or not that was egregious for any rules. In the meantime, we're going to take a quick break. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, so stick around.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Welcome back to Laguna Seca. It is round 7 of the Porsche Owners Club Series, and Chris Walsh has taken a 3rd win out of 4 tries. This has been an impressive streak out of him since he's shown up. He was followed by Cigar Dewan, who has also been incredibly consistent himself, and that was his 4th second place out of, I believe, 6 races that he has attended. So also just been racking them up. Michael Bolton gets himself a podium, and that will be his first of the season over Mark Rondeau, who finished 4th, as Gabe Zamora was 5th. AJ Roper finished P6 with Jad Duncan in the 7th spot. Chad Dick was P8, and Dylan Scott 9th. Dustin Heindel rounds out your top 10 last on the lead lap.
Like you said, last car on the lead lap. First car 1 lap down is BJ Fulton in the number 82. John Momeyer also 1 lap down, as well as Jacob Abrams there in 13th place. Larry Haas, unfortunately, 2 laps down, and then Will Castillo was the last car to finish tonight. 4 laps down, we saw Michael Johnson, that unfortunate incident on the first lap in the Andretti hairpin.
Looks like we've got our winner ready to talk to us. Chris Walsh is here to tell us how the race felt from his perspective. So let's see if he felt any of that pressure from Cigar during the race. Chris, congratulations. Another win here. It looked like towards the end you were getting caught just a little bit. What brought you guys close together there?
Yeah, I mean, I got a little traffic there that just, it depends where you catch it on this track. It can be very detrimental to the lap. But I just caught it in the wrong time, which pulled him really close. And I was just kind of, I made the mistake at Willow where I overdrove the tire. So I was really just kind of managing the tire and trying to manage the gap to him a bit. So, I could leave a little bit at the end in case I had to fight. So luckily that worked out because I was able to put down a pretty fast penultimate lap, I think. So, it was a fun race. He kept me honest the whole time.
Absolutely, and gave us something to hold on to all race as we were waiting to see if he could manage to catch up and try and pass you. It did look like there was a couple times where things got a little unnervingly close. Did you really feel like you had it under control the entire time, or did you get nervous at any point?
No, I mean I really like the track. I'm pretty comfortable with the limits and even putting a wheel out in the dirt in a lot of places. Since they updated the the simulator, it seems like you can get away with a lot more, a lot more overrun into the gravel and stuff. The gravel actually acts pretty realistic as opposed to how it used to. So there's a lot more leeway there than I think previously. So I was good with where we were at in place in the car.
Great stuff. Well, this is now 3 wins in 4 tries. I'm pretty sure I've asked you this before, so apologies if you've already answered this, but will you be able to be around enough to try and go for the championship? Because you're very quickly catching up with everybody.
Yeah, I should be able to make every race. It's actually timed out well where the end of year real racing stuff doesn't conflict with these weeks. So it's been pretty fortuitous in that regard. So yeah, I'm hoping to be at the rest of them. They got a great calendar laid out and the racing is really good. So, I'm just excited to race with the guys and, everything you guys are doing. The broadcast is always phenomenal. So I appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much. And you make the racing awesome, watching you go up against these guys. Congratulations on another victory.
I appreciate it. You guys have a good night.
Chris Walsh, our winner, as second place was Cigar Dewan, and Joey has caught up with him.
First of all, Cigar Dewan, congratulations on the second place here at Laguna Seca.
Thank you. Looks like I'm back in my second place spot.
Yeah. Don't worry. We still have the name on the seat here for you, and we got the silver medal out for you. But it seemed like a pretty consistent race. What did you need to go up there and finally make the pass on Chris?
Oh, around Laguna, I think you need a lot more pace differential. I was just trying to keep up with Chris to hopefully cause him to make a mistake, and he was every now and then dipping a wheel in the dirt. And so I was just hoping, he'd make a mistake and go off, and that was my plan for the overtake if it was ever going to happen. Unfortunately, that just wasn't on the cards. I needed to have converted qualifying, and I did. I had one shot at a really quick lap, and I'm sure Chris would say the same thing. So we all have more pace in that lap because it's never perfect. But yeah, he got me in qualifying, and from that point on, I knew it was going to be really tough to win the race. So yeah, as soon as we got clear of turn 1, I figured it should, I just need to survive, but I didn't want to let Chris go, so I was trying desperately to keep up.
It's funny how qualifying and track position always comes down to those chasing the hundredths or the tenths of a second here around Laguna Seca. But you mentioned keeping it clean through the Andretti hairpin on lap 1. Were you aware of the chaos that was just to your inside?
Yes. I stayed out wide and I was ready to lose a spot, even just to not get taken out. And I was just watching the replay as well. I think, yeah, it's unfortunate. It happens. It's a narrow track and it's a really tight hairpin, and getting your braking right with cold tires is really tricky. That's unfortunate. I did see the huge gap open up in the mirror, so I knew something went down.
So, if you couldn't get past Chris Walsh here tonight, looking forward into the future of the championship, what are you going to do to get up there and take that top step of the podium again?
Well, I know I have the pace. Even this race, I had the fastest lap. And so it's important to qualify, ahead of Chris or, whoever's in second place. Just need to get pole. I know I have the pace to be able to do that. It's just consistency and practice.
Well, good luck out there the rest of the season. And once again, congratulations on the second place tonight.
Thank you.
That was Cigar Dewan, like I said, driver of the 501, second place here at Laguna Seca.
And third, as I mentioned, was the first podium of the season for Michael Bolton. Michael, congratulations. Looks like you had to work a little bit, but we heard other drivers talk about maybe saving tires towards the start. Was some of that pressure just you kind of holding on to your stuff?
What's going on, Joe? Man, it feels good to be back in a podium position. It's been too long. But yeah, definitely. I think my strategy was, my strategy is always to kind of save the tires. And I think with the new update, we were all kind of feeling the pain of no front end grip, turn in, apex, exit. We're all kind of struggling everywhere. And just try to keep it consistent. Lap 3 and 4, Gabe was really, really on me, kept me honest. And I think around lap 9 as well, he had a good run up the hill and just had to defend I had to defend. But it was, man, I'm still trying to catch my breath right now. But it was one hell of a race. But he definitely kept me honest.
Now, before you even got to that, you had another nerve-wracking moment at the very start of the race. We're going to watch your onboard here on the replay. Tell us about what it was like trying to weave through the chaos.
Well, we did a couple practice races, and BJ, Mark, and myself, we actually we had a really crazy start. We were 3 wide, going up and over the hill into turn 1, and we did the replay, and we're like, our fenders were almost inside of each other. So we've had some good practice there, and I love racing with Mark, and we've been teammates for for a couple of the endurance races. But I really trust getting close to him, and a little bit of door banging doesn't bother me. That's all part of the fun. And I think there was a lot of there was a lot of things that could have gone wrong, but I'm happy to to have a straight wheel and a car that still goes fast.
Well, this is a handy 12 points to your score. Where do you go from here? More podiums on the board, maybe?
Man, I'm trying, but I mean, you guys have been with us for a few seasons now, and these guys are getting faster and faster, and it's tough, man. I got to give a big shout out to Michael Johnson. Haven't done any coaching with him this season, but always got to give him a shout out because he's gotten me to pace and of where I am. I think I'm not sure what happened, but I think there was some kind of incident on lap 1 where he got taken out. But missed racing with that guy. I know he had some PC issues as well, and definitely a huge shout out for Michael Johnson, just because there's no way I'd be here without him. But then again, these guys are so damn fast. Man, I don't know what to do. I think I got to start using some cheat codes, some game sharks or something.
Well, there's a callback that only a couple of us remember.
Game Genie.
I need the Game Genie, exactly.
Yes, I had the Game Genie as well. Oh boy. Anyways, congratulations on the podium and a well-run race today.
Thank you so much, Joe. Yeah, big shout out to POC and Boxed Up and Pineapple Grips and my lovely wife, Gabby. Thank you, guys.
Michael Bolton, your 3rd place finisher in the 127 today. Also, we want to thank the sponsors of this series before we head out. Porsche, there is no substitute. Find out more at Porsche.com. And Game Changer Wealth, helping you become a game changer with wealth. Contact them today at GameChangerBR.com or at 225-664-2565. Thanks to the team today, Joey, Zach, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next race, we're leaving California finally, and we're going to Australia for Bathurst, Monday, October 9th at 11 p.m. Eastern. Also, be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. But until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.